Hey, what's happening, everybody? Josh over here from Havelock Wool. Wanted to show everyone a little bit more of how this stuff is installed, kind of go through some of the installation procedures that we think are might be helpful for you on this little journey of yours. I'm standing in a 2019 Sprinter 144. All the panels are off, so we're pretty much ready to start talking about insulation. I think solar and electrical is going to be going in here shortly, but for these purposes, we'll kind of roll through what's happening. Basically, we want to talk about there's three general levels of insulation with Havelock Wool. The first is that this is a 2-inch bat. This is primarily what everyone's going to be using. One of the questions we get a lot is, should I use loose fill and how do I stuff all these little nooks and crannies? To tell you more about our product, because we don't use glue, this stuff peels apart really quickly and easily, and this is what I would be using as loose fill to stuff all these little areas. So that would be the first one. It's kind of time intensive. If you have the time to do it, I think you're going to get a lot of value back from it in terms of sound abatement and certainly thermal resistance. So first step for us is get this in all the little holes and cavities. So we're not trying to pack it in there real tight. We're not packing black powder in a cannon like the old days. So you can pretty much understand, get a measuring tape out on this rib up here being 2 inches wide, 2 inches deep, and then I can literally cut out a 2-inch wide, 2-inch deep strip, feed it through, or just rip it into puffs and stuff. So that'd be the first level of installation. And then the second level for me is really utilizing these flanges and pockets here and understanding that simple measurement will tell me I've got almost 18 inches down and let's say 18 inches across, and I'm literally going to cut out a shape that fits that 18 by 18, and I'm going to tuck it into this flange, and gravity's not going to take its effect. It's going to obviously stay in there. So do the whole bunch of cavities around the fan with that style. When you start getting to some of these cavities and you stick a measuring tape in here, you're going to see that this cavity, for instance, is 3 inches. The product comes standard as 2 inches. So instead of just putting 2 inches in there, like you may with other products, we would recommend that you fill the cavity all the way full. So again, 2-inch bat, because we don't use any glue in the product, you can with your fingers quite easily peel the 2-inch bat into two 1-inch flakes. And I would use one of those sides to then layer and get the right depth. Doing that's going to, of course, increase your R value. So we are R 3.6 an inch. A 2-inch bat gets us to R7. So you can quickly get some decent R value inside of these cavities. We have a lot of the measurements online for bag suggestions. We also want to point out those are quite average and there's a lot of variables that go into it. For instance, one variable might be a lot of folks get to the point where they realize they're going to need to use a furring strip. And so here's a piece of what looks like, 3/4 ply. Once you put that furring strip on the wall and you remeasure, your need for insulation just grew another inch. So now my 3-inch cavity becomes a 4-inch cavity, and we would recommend that you fill that 4-inch cavity with 4 inches of wool. Sounds pretty basic, but those are some of the variables that we can't control when you're trying to really understand how much wool you need. I always recommend measuring length times width, multiply that out and add those spaces up to a total square footage. You can get an appropriate bag count if you're trying to be really, real accurate with what you're doing. And then the third and final step for us is these big open areas where I don't have a flange to tuck behind. So gravity's going to take its effect and it's going to, of course, fall down. So a lot of people talk about using spray glue, and we go through this hard process of making a bat without glue. So naturally, I'm going to tell you I don't like it. I think you can do better and easier by using stringer tape. The stringer tape, you would make a spider web, or you would, use some painter's tape to kind of tape it in there. That's a temporary measure to get the wool to stay in there until the finished wall goes on. So